Philadelphia is losing population. You know why? It's not really because people are moving out, it's because nobody's moving there. In this video, I'm going to tell you the reason people say they won't move to Philadelphia anymore. The city of brotherly love was once a great city and a symbol of American democracy. Philadelphia is one of the most historic cities in the U.S. From the Lenape Indians to Benjamin Franklin to the nation's capital to Rocky, Philly has seen some things. Philly was a relocation hotspot for many decades. In 1683, the city had only 600 residents. The next time they did a head count in 1731, the city had exploded to 12,000. Philadelphia continued to grow by at least 16% up until 1940, when it actually lost 1% for the first time in its history. That 1940 census was the first of many negative decades. In the 2020 census, they actually gained some people for the first time in 70 years. But in 2021 and 2022, they were right back to losing. So why doesn't anyone want to live in Philadelphia anymore? I'm going to tell you the most common reasons given. Get it? Got it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, it's crowded. Yep, that's right, it's crowded even though it's been losing people. Philadelphia is the second largest city on the East Coast and the third most populous downtown in the country. The city itself has a population of 1.6 million residents. Now the whole metro area has about 6.2 million. If you look at their population density, they have almost 12,000 people for every square mile. Now that's not nearly as bad as New York City, which is about 27,000 per every square mile, but it's still pretty bad. This was really interesting. I found this stat that 60% of the US population lives within a 2-hour flight of Philadelphia. Now, like I've said many times before, when you got too many people, you got more problems. More people means more problems. When you have a high population density, you have more crime, you have more homelessness, you have more poverty. It's just how it works. And that's why a lot of people don't want to move there. Nobody wants to live in a city like that where people are living on top of each other anymore. It's different if the city is perfectly clean and nice and a great place to be, but when it's not, it's really not worth it when it's overcrowded. Number 9, horrible traffic. That's right, they got some bad traffic in Philadelphia, and people know about it. That's also part of the problem when you have a lot of people living on top of each other. A lot of really bad traffic snarls. Philadelphia was named the 10th worst city in the U.S. for traffic. Drivers in Philadelphia, on average, lose 75 hours of their life a year due to traffic. Now, it has a lot to do with population, but it also has to do with a really bad infrastructure. They've made some upgrades, but they are well behind the curve. And one of the problems is kind of self-imposed, I guess you could say. Because the roadways have been preserved for historical value, it's become increasingly difficult to accommodate the city's ever-growing population and flocking tourists to the different communities. Now, this is a problem with a lot of historic cities. Let's say they definitely need an interstate moving through a certain area, but it might go through a historic neighborhood. They got to reroute it, which causes more problems. I mean, it's good to preserve our history, but sometimes something's got to give. Near where I live, we have this weird block, how it kind of stretches out. The corner just kind of stretches out in this weird angle. And it's because there's a 300-year-old tree there. I don't know, it might be only 200 years old, but I know it's over 100 years. And if you own the property it's on, you can't cut it, you can't do it. The city takes care of that tree, but you can own the rest of the property. That's when I lived in California too. We do that kind of stuff here in Oregon all the time, trying to save trees. Many years ago, I saw a comedian said, you want to chop down a tree in Oregon, you got a better chance of getting a lap dance from Margaret Thatcher. Yeah, that's how old that joke is. She died in 2013, and I think the odds are really similar to this day. Number 8, freezing winters. Yes, it gets pretty cold in Philadelphia. The whole eastern seaboard during the winter, they have their months where it gets pretty brutal. Most people don't realize that when they think about East Coast. You know, you're probably going to think New York's got it, and you think about Boston. There's always pictures of that. You never see pictures of Philadelphia in the snow. The cold season in this part of the country lasts for about 3.5 months, from December to sometime in March, mid-March, something like that. The average temperature is below 45 degrees. That's just the average. It gets much lower. The coldest month of the year is January, and the average low is 27 degrees, with the average high about 40. Philadelphia on average receives about 25 inches of snow every year, but it's had some pretty rough years. The winter of 19 to 20 was 78 inches. Now they do get big snowstorms where they can get 5 inches of snow in a day easily. That normally happens about once a year, but it can show up anytime from December to March. I don't mind cold weather, but when the snow gets that bad, I mean, it gets worse in other parts of the country, but it still kind of sucks. Number 7, poor public transit. SEPTA is the Regional Public Transportation Authority of Philadelphia metropolitan area and operates the area's subways, bus routes, commuter rails, trolleys, and light rail systems. Now, it's expansive and it's big, but it kind of sucks. I've been on it a few times. Philadelphia's City Hall subway stop is the main transportation hub for the city, and it is an underground maze of intricate walkways that connect to different public transportation stations, all in the heart of the city. And if you know it, great. If you don't, good luck. It's really easy to get lost here. Now, my understanding is it's got a little better over the last few years, but it's pretty dangerous. You're trapped underground with a bunch of weirdos, and there's very little police presence down there. In the last few years, they've tried to really slow down the homeless from basically camping out in there, but it's been a problem for a long time. It's also known for being unreliable and inconvenient. The buses and the trolleys are late all the time. Number 6, it's got a high cost of living. Philadelphia, like all major cities, has a really high cost of living. The problem is, when you got a high cost of living, you usually have a really nice city to live in. Philadelphia ain't pulling their weight in that category. They're charging you like it's a much better place to live. Philadelphia is considered the 5th most expensive city in the US, with a cost of living that's about 11% higher than the national average. Like we already know, housing prices change all the time. If you look at the median home price here, it's actually below the national average, but they've got a lot of really run-down neighborhoods and a lot of horrible homes for sale. So I think it's kind of deceiving. But if you want something decent, it's going to be a little too expensive. Now, is it the most expensive city in the United States? No. It's a little lower than the most expensive cities, but it also sucks a lot more. Number 5, it's dirty. That's right, Philadelphia is a dirty city. In 2020, Forbes named Philadelphia as the dirtiest city in America. You add all the landfills, the heat, humidity during the summer, the place stinks on top of being dirty. In 2022, they launched this neighborhood cleanup program, which should start showing some results. I mean, they got no place else to go but up, right? But the streets always seem to be covered in trash, and there's graffiti on the buildings and the sidewalks. They also aren't really big on recycling either. Only about 25% of Philadelphians recycle their trash, where the national average is about 40%. So it's dirty, expensive, and it's crowded. Can't wait to go back. Speaking of that, last time I did this video was about 5 years ago, and back then it had been about 2 years since I'd been in Philadelphia, and one of my biggest complaints was lack of good pizza. I've been back since then, and I went looking for pizza. Yeah, they still lack really good pizza. Number 4, high crimes. Yes, Philadelphia has some serious crime. It's right across the river from Camden, New Jersey, so you gotta have some high crime. You don't want them showing you up, do you? Philadelphia has the great nickname of Killadelphia. And in case you don't understand that, that's a slang reference for the city's high murder rate. The total crime rate in Philadelphia is 71% above the national average. The violent crime rate is 144% above the national average. Every year, about 500 people for every 100,000 will be the victim of some form of violent crime in Philadelphia. That's almost the same odds as passing the postal exam if you graduated from a Philadelphia high school. If you want to go a step further and just look at really bad neighborhoods that got a lot of weirdness going on that are crimes, search YouTube for Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia. Oh yeah, it's eye-opening. Number 3, the parking. Parking in Philadelphia is legendarily bad. Finding a parking spot, period, is like finding a needle in a haystack. It's really, really difficult, and if you do find parking, it's going to be expensive. I don't know how much the city makes off their parking enforcement, but these guys are everywhere. It's so bad they actually made a TV show called Parking Wars. The series' original focus was on the employees of the Philadelphia Parking Authority and their daily work, like ticketing, booting, and towing vehicles, and the conflicts they get into with people. Pretty much how people despise them. Went on for 7 seasons. Residents here with street parking usually pay for monthly parking in a lot or something like that instead of trying to find a parking space. The parking authority can be a real pain though, and they definitely won't be cutting you any slack. Many places have like 2-hour parking, so you'll eventually get a ticket if you move here and don't pay for a parking spot in some lot. Number 2, too many taxes. Yeah, Philadelphia is kind of heavy on the taxes. You got your typical state and obviously federal taxes, but then Philadelphia's got their own. They have a city wage tax, which goes on salaries, hourly wage, commissions, and any other kind of compensation you could try and get. All of Philadelphia residents owe the city wage tax regardless of where they work. Philadelphia also has a property tax, which is the third highest in the country. When you add all those things together, Philadelphia ends up being one of the highest tax cities in the United States. All right, before we get to number 1, if you got time, there's some videos suggested at the end of this video. It really helps out the channel if you watch one of those. So if you got time, please do. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, it's not for families. A recent study showed that Philadelphia is one of the worst cities in the country to raise a family. This is based on 4 factors: safety score, which we've already talked about, housing affordability, which is expensive like we talked about, educational quality, which we really didn't talk about, but I'll tell you this, Area Vibes gives them an F. Now, I'm sure you could find some private schools or the occasional public school that is doing good, but overall, their score is an F. The last category they look at is it child-friendly? Philadelphia is not. Just overall, the schools, the crime, how dirty the city is, and believe it or not, where you have to park plays a big part of being a parent. Nothing like having to drive around for 20 minutes only to find a parking place 4 blocks away from your home in a bad neighborhood. You got 3 kids and one's in a stroller. Try and get that together. All right, so those are the reasons people won't move to Philadelphia. Hope you got some information out of it. Hope you enjoyed it. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.